Yeah, that's good.
The
That's
senior
good.
moments happen more and more frequently now.
Hi, Peter.
Peter,
Hello.
Mr. Freilinger.
I apologize to all. I am managing 2 small children in the background. I will be on mute, but please excuse me if anything pops up in the back.
I will be disappointed if I do not see any funny faces being made behind you.
Thank you. Yes. Oh,
I think that's probably how my boss feels every day. He's managing a lot of children.
Okay, I suppose we'll give it one more minute.
Yeah, I expect there probably isn't going to be a ton of people participating, since there really wasn't much on the agenda to begin with.
Right. No, I'm just thinking
Oops.
for Leroy to come in here.
Yeah, Leroy's just emailing me, I think. See what he has to say.
Dear Brian, I'm outside the town hall front door. If someone could let me in, that'd be great. Thanks.
I cannot find Doreen's email. Can you send me the link? Doreen, can you send Leroy the link? Since I didn't really have one.
The date is May 7th.
Yeah, you may want to check sometimes. Well, if I select the email and it reads, it just gets funneled into and buried in deep within my inbox. I always have to I have to favorite it, save the email until we need it here.
I actually found it more useful that the Charter Review Committee will send out the evite like that day, or the Zoom invite that day, because then it doesn't get buried.
Mm.
The other thing you do is send a reminder day of with the same information.
Mm. Yep.
Yeah, the last time Leroy was on the board, things were normal, so he hasn't had to experience any of this. Yes, Kevin and Molly say they copy and paste the contents of the email into their calendar. That's what I did. Didn't help me. Great suggestion, though.
Do you think maybe we could get started?
I think
and
so.
Mr.
Leroy
Propp
will
could join us as
Yeah.
he comes in. I mean, we're not. We only have one item on the agenda tonight, so I'll say with that, I will call this meeting to order. This is the May 12th Scarborough Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. And before we get started, and we all stand, so to speak, for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
I pledge
allegiance
allegiance to the
to the
flag
flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for
for
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
I always have to mute myself because I can never hear myself say it at the same time. It always throws me off. So This is a public proceeding tonight. Thank you all so much for joining us. And unless the board specifically votes to go into an executive session, the public has the right to hear everything that is being said and to view all of the exhibits that are presented. Please notify the chairperson, which is me, if you are unable to hear or see the proceedings. The board works from a prepared agenda and will take up tonight's items in the following order. We will go through roll call, the approval of the April 14th minutes, the approval of the draft decision for the April 14th meeting. We also approve the draft written decisions for appeals 2702, 03, 04, 05, and 06. And we have one new appeal tonight, appeal 2707 before zoning board comments. I guess with that, let's welcome Mr. Crockett for joining us. Good to have you back, sir. Mr. Crockett is a former member of the zoning board, come to rejoin us again. So very good to have you here. So with that, Dorian, would you please start us off with the roll call?
James Hebert,
Here.
Rudy Karen,
Here.
David Bork,
Here.
Karen Shoup,
Here.
Peter Freilinger,
Here.
and Leroy Crockett.
Here.
Excellent. Do I have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes from the April 14th meeting? Mr. Bork.
Yes, I move to approve the meeting minutes from the April 14th meeting.
Excellent. Do I have a second, Mr. Karen?
I second.
Excellent. Has everyone had a chance to review and read the minutes from last month? If no one has any questions, all those in favor, I'll start with you, Mr. Karen,
Aye.
Mr. Bork,
Yes.
Ms. Shoup,
Yes.
Mr. Freilinger,
Yes.
and Mr. Crockett. Excellent. Now we will go to the approval of the draft written decision for the application heard at the April 14th meeting. This is the shoreland setback determination by Kevin Brown Architecture on behalf of Anthony Rinaldi, 54 CV Landing Road. Do I have a motion on the floor? Mr. Bork?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move to approve the draft written decision for the application of the hearing for a shoreland setback determination by Kevin Brown Architecture on behalf of Anthony Rinaldi, 54 CV Landing Road.
Excellent. Do I have a second, Mr. Karen?
I second.
Excellent. All those in favor, Mr. Karen,
Aye.
Mr. Bork,
Yes.
Ms. Shoup, Mr. Freilinger,
Yes.
and Mr. Crockett. And Mr. Longstaff, real quick, is Mr. Crockett an alternate voting member tonight and Mr. Freilinger is a full voting member tonight?
That would be correct. And
Okay.
Leroy, if you wouldn't mind, when you speak, you just have to unmute yourself. There's a little red microphone with a slash through it. If you go up and just click the unmute, and that will allow you to speak.
You can also hit the space bar on your keyboard, do the same.
Awesome.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, or Alt-A.
Okay. Excellent. Now let's move on to so just so the folks in the public know, Mr. Freilinger is now a full-time full voting member and Mr. Crockett is our first alternate. So let's go to our draft written decisions for the appeals heard at the April 14th meeting. So we have appeal number 2702, practical difficulty variance by David Ruff and Jane Wellham. Do I have a motion on the floor to approve those findings as presented?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a motion to approve appeal number 2702, practical difficulty variance appeal by David Ruff and Jane Wellham at 8 Beach Street.
Excellent. Mr. Karen?
I motion to second.
Excellent. Any discussion on the floor? Has everyone had a chance to review their findings from last month? If they're seeing no corrections to the findings, I'll go through a vote. Mr. Karen?
Aye.
Mr. Bork?
Yes.
Ms. Shoup?
Yes.
Mr. Freilinger?
Yes.
Mr. Crockett? And I vote aye as well. Let's go to appeal number 2703, limited reduction of yard size residential appeal by Chris Lavoie. Do I have a motion on the floor, Mr. Bork?
Yes, indeed. A motion to approve appeal number 2703 for a limited reduction in yard size for residential appeal by Chris Laval at 41 Horseshoe Drive.
Excellent. Mr. Karen?
Move to second.
All right. Any discussion on the floor? Everyone's had a chance to review the findings of fact discussed at last meeting. Seeing no discussion, Mr. Karen,
I vote aye.
Mr. Bork,
Yes,
Ms. Shute,
Yes.
Mr. Frolinger,
Yes.
Mr. Crockett.
Yes.
Excellent. And I vote aye as well. Appeal number 2704, limited reduction to yard size residential appeal by Jason Greenleaf. Mr. Bork, do I have a motion?
yes, indeed. Appeal number 2704, I make a motion to approve that for a limited reduction in yard size. Residential appeal by Jason A. Greenleaf at 199 Black Point Road.
Excellent. Do I have a second, Mr. Karen?
Yes, I second.
Excellent. Any discussion? Everyone's had a chance to review the findings. Seeing no discussion, Mr. Karen,
Aye.
Mr. Bork,
Yes,
Ms. Shute,
Yes.
Mr. Frolinger,
Yes.
Mr. Crockett.
Yes.
Excellent. And I vote aye as well. Appeal number 2706, practical difficulty variance appeal by Trevor Watson on behalf of Todd O'Brien and Brittany Bollinger. Do I have a motion, Mr. Bork?
did we miss appeal 2705?
Excuse me, we did miss appeals 2705. So let me start again. Do I have a motion on the floor for appeal 2705, special exception appeal by LK Planning? Mr. Bork.
Yes. Motion to approve appeal number 2705, special exception appeal by LK Planning on behalf of P2M Development LLC, 238 Gore Road.
Excellent. Mr. Karen.
Move to second.
All right. Everyone has had a chance to review the findings. Seeing no discussion. All those in favor, Mr. Karen,
Aye.
Mr. Bork,
Yes,
Ms. Shute,
Yes.
Mr. Frolinger,
Yes.
and Mr. Crockett.
Yes.
Excellent. Now on to appeal 2706, practical difficulty variance appeal. Do I have a motion on the floor, Mr. Bork?
yes. Motion to approve appeal number 2706, a practical difficulty variance appeal by Thomas Watson on behalf of Todd O'Brien and Brittany Bollinger at 8 Pinewood Circle.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Excellent. Any discussion? Everyone's had a chance to look at the findings of fact from this appeal. All right. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, Mr. Karen,
Aye.
Mr. Bork,
Yes,
Ms. Shute,
Yes.
Mr. Frolinger,
Yes.
Mr. Crockett. Excellent. And I vote yes, I as well. So that takes care of the draft written decisions for our appeals at the April 14th meeting. Now for the single appeal that's on our agenda this evening is appeal 2707, limited reduction to yard size residential appeal by Kevin and Molly Christensen. So for those of you who don't remember, we went through and approved this appeal back in December, but unfortunately, there was an issue where the appeals, the signed variance approval wasn't delivered to them in the mails around Christmas time. And the belief is that it was lost in the Christmas rush or delivered to a different address and never forwarded. So we have the Christensens here with us. Excuse me, Kevin and Molly. Would you just like to say a few words on why you would like to just have an extension? Pretty straightforward. So hello, good to see you again. Just describe what you're asking for really quickly for the record.
Sure. It's nice to see you all again. So pretty much it was the same exact thing that was approved last time. We just didn't receive it. And actually a couple days ago, I got another email from my refinance, the company that I was refinancing from. They sent me a check way back then that I never received. So they just contacted me by email and told me that they can send another check out. So just another backup. But yes, we did not receive, unfortunately, the variance, the signed variance, so that we can bring it over to the county and submit it with them. So we are here again.
All right. Does the board have any questions for the applicants at this time? Seems pretty straightforward here. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question more for Mr. Longstaff. It strikes me, has this happened in the past? Are there administrative things that we could do to prevent this inconvenience for the Christensens in the future? Or I'm new to this, so I'm just kind of curious.
Well, we used to send them by Raven. We stopped doing that because that was unreliable. So we started using the U.S. Postal Service. And in my time, we've never had this happen, but I think this has just been an odd year. So what we have done now is we've instituted a policy of we will now send them via certified mail return receipt requested. It was just a cost savings measure that we never bothered to do before, never had an issue with it. Oftentimes, applicants would actually come in and get the certificate from us before we even got it in the mail. So it's just never been an issue before, but in order to prevent this from happening, we'll just take on the added step of sending it certified mail.
Now, I imagine that this was one of those it was a 2020 thing. Yeah, just curious and appreciate the comments from Mr. Longstaff. Thank you.
I just want to also, Mr. Chair, if I may, just clarify, this isn't an extension. We actually have to reissue the variance, or at least that's the request, is to reissue the variance. It's not an extension. It's a brand new decision. However, if it is the board's wish to reissue the variance, reapprove the variance, we would do so noting that the same findings of fact and conclusions of law that were arrived at the December 9, 2020 meeting are what you're using to make that reissue.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Does anyone have any other questions for the applicants? Mr. Bork?
Not a question, but I would like to make a motion at this time to approve appeal number 2707 using the same findings of facts and conclusions in the original approval that we made back in December of 2020.
I move to second.
Does that satisfy the verbiage, Mr. Longstaff? Okay.
Yes, that'd be fine.
All right. And I'll just make one amendment to it to note that it's the December 9th meeting. And yeah, everything else is pretty straightforward. Seeing no comments, we'll go through the roll call vote. Mr. Karen?
I vote yes.
Mr. Bork?
Yes.
Mr. Shoup?
Yes.
Mr. Freilinger?
Yes.
Mr. Crockett?
Yes.
And I will vote aye as well. So congratulations.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
Yeah.
point of
Yes.
order. Did
Yes,
we get a
please.
second on the motion?
It was from Mr. Karen.
We did. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I didn't recall that. Thank you.
Yep. Sorry about that.
And
Excellent. Slide.
Mr. Longstaff, they will go out certified mail, right?
I was thinking Raven again, but no, yeah, we'll do
You
it
might have
certified
to-
mail.
What's old is new again. Well, thank you, the Christiansens. Thank you for joining
Thank
us and
you.
going through this
Thank you
evening.
so
Appreciate
much.
So
Have a
best
great
of
night.
luck.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
We're hopeful that's the last time we have to hear the same variance appeal. That makes 3.
Put a tracker on the Raven there, Brian. I think that's kind of the goal.
It's the variance that just keeps on coming.
Well, they say third time's a charm, so here we go.
Did we lose our chairman?
It
I think
appears
we did.
that- It appears that Mr. Eber is gone, which means
Oh,
that
he says he's moved to panelist. Can you elevate him, Doreen?
Again.
I did nothing. I clicked nothing, James. He's blaming me. I did nothing.
Well, my email disappeared from Doreen, so I have no idea where it went. It was
Hey.
in my folder and then it was gone.
Well, at least your name changed from Karen Shoup to Leroy Crockett, which is good.
Yeah,
All
she
right.
sent it over to me. Frantically sending out emails to anybody I knew.
All right. Well, now that's out of the way. We had one other appeal on tonight, 2708, the special exception appeal by Northeast Civil Solutions at 181 Payne Road, but that has been withdrawn. And we'll see if we see that again next month or in the future. So we don't have any more appeals tonight. Do we have any zoning board comments? Other than welcome back, Mr. Crockett. Good to see you again.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I was going to actually reiterate that. It's good to have Leroy back. We're happy he came back to Scarborough and decided he wanted to serve again. That's good to see him and good to have him here. We are still down one alternate member because Mr. Howe has resigned. So just putting it out there to the public, still looking for zoning board members. I don't know if the clerk has anyone waiting in the queue from the appointments committee. They won't meet until later this month.
So, Brian, and Mr. Chairman, have I been elevated to a full member from an alternate, or am I just still an alternate meeting by meeting? Or
If I may jump in, I got an email from Tody Justice, town clerk. The appointments committee will meet on June 7th. I'm sorry, it's not later this month. It's in June 7th, to review openings. At that time, they could recommend moving the first alternate to full voting position and moving the second alternate to first position. Until then, if there is no quorum, the board chair can have the alternates move into that position, which is what we did tonight.
got it. That's what I thought, Brian. I just wanted to kind of make sure I wasn't missing.
I
something.
think what we'd like to, or what I'd ask the chair to entertain, we emailed back and forth, and it's certainly something the board can entertain. If the board would like to make a recommendation to the appointments committee, to have that be the policy going forward, to move a first alternate into a voting position. It kind of gives them a quicker pathway maybe into a voting position if that's what they want. We certainly don't want to move an alternate who wants to remain an alternate into a full voting member position, because we can advertise, or not advertise, but we can fill the full member position with a new applicant at any point when that's appropriate. So I guess I would leave it up to the board, up to the chair and the board to decide if they want to put a recommendation forward to the appointments committee to move Mr. Freilinger to full voting member. I mean, that's probably what they would do, although they have the right to just fill the vacant position. So if that's the board's wish, I would suggest that would be a good thing to do, to make that recommendation. And I'll certainly forward it to Clerk Justice so that she can put it on the appointments committee's agenda.
I think that's a great idea, Brian, and it just kind of streamlines it a little bit too. It cuts away a little bit of the, I'll say, bureaucratic red tape, where if a position opens up on a full voting member slot, we already have a first or a second alternate. Everybody just kind of shifts up into place. Obviously, if someone wishes to stay as an alternate, I would say they would have the right of refusal to do so. They can respectfully decline to move up to a voting position if they don't feel ready for it yet. That should be an option, but I think that would be a logical progression, logical order of things. That way it saves extra paperwork on behalf of the town, and we can just let them know what the next board looks like. So I guess if there isn't a discussion, I will entertain a motion to automatically move alternates up to full voting positions as voting positions become made available and there are alternate members that can take that position, obviously at the person's first right of refusal if they do not wish to promote or accept that next position. That was really awful the way I worded that. I hope you write that differently, but I think that gets it just across. Does somebody want to move on that?
I will so move with the additional stipulation that this is a recommendation that we're making to town council, to the committee, the appointments committee of town council. Obviously, they have the right to say yes or no.
Right. We can't go rogue here as much as we'd love to. Thank you, Mr. Bork, for that. Is there a second?
Yes, I second.
Mr. Karen seconds. Any further discussion? Thoughts from other board members?
We got to ask Mr. Freilinger if he wants to be a full voting member.
That's right. We never really asked what you want, Mr. Freilinger. Do you want to become a full voting member of the Zoning Board of Appeals?
I would very much like to, actually, Brian. I was going to say, if you could let Tody know that I would be pleased to have her forward my desire to be a full member to the appointments committee, that would be great.
Excellent. And then by that logic, Mr. Crockett would move to a first alternate position, and we're looking for a second alternate from the town's perspective. So I think that makes it look a little bit better, especially when we're advertising on the website, on the town website. That makes it a lot more clear to other folks as well. So seeing no further discussion, all those in favor? I'll start with you, Mr. Karen.
Aye.
Ms. Shoup,
Yes.
Mr. Bork,
Yes.
Mr. Freilinger.
Yes, although I'll note that I might be an interested party in this, so I'll say yes, but if I need to abstain, I'll leave that to the chair and to Mr. Longstaff.
Oh, I think you're fine. Thank you very much, Mr. Crockett.
Yeah, I don't think you need to abstain. I think you're fine with that. And we actually, as Brian knows, did have someone years past that declined to become a full voting member. So that's a good question that you always want to ask the person.
Yep.
I am yes.
Excellent. And I as well. Any other thoughts, questions from anyone?
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I may again, sorry to
Sure.
take up your time. Otherwise, we'd be out of here in record. We still might be out of here in record time. Just one other item. I think you indicated that you would not be available for the June meeting.
Thank you very much for reminding me. I even wrote it down here in front of me to mention that. But yes, as I mentioned last month, and I think a previous month, I will not be here next month, the June 9th meeting, I believe it is. So Mr. Karen will be stepping in and running this show.
So
next month.
I wanted to put it out there that unlike in years past, when we have to shuffle meetings around, it was always quite a difficulty to do so because the meeting room, the council chambers were always booked. We have the ability to do a virtual meeting now, so we could actually move it to a different date as long as we have 10 days notice, public notice. Does the chair or does the board have any desire to move the June meeting to a different Wednesday or a different date? If you so choose, and then I'm going to follow that up with another request.
I guess my personal perspective, I wouldn't want to change the schedule that's already kind of set in place. I know me personally, I kind of build my schedule, my home schedule around zoning board meetings to avoid any conflicts. When the conflicts do come up, it's something that I really can't get out of. I think out of just out of respect for other people's planning as well, and presuming that all the members here can make it to the meeting next month, that we would still maintain a quorum. I would say proceed on without me on next Wednesday, the second Wednesday next month.
So if nobody has any known conflict with the scheduled meeting date next month, then that's fine. My only anxiety comes from when all of a sudden something else comes up and now we're down to 4 members and then 3 members and then the meeting has to get rescheduled anyway. So
Right.
Having said that, then that's fine. It appears we can leave the meeting as scheduled. Now, the second part of my ask is that I will not be available in July for the July meeting. That is my vacation. I do not intend to spend it with you. So would the board want to entertain moving that meeting? Because we have plenty of time to do so.
Quick question, Brian. Yeah, quick question, Brian. How long are you gone? A week, 2 weeks? How long?
Unfortunately, only about 5 days.
Oh, I don't have a preference. I guess if I'm fine with leaving the schedule as it is, but obviously if it's a strain on town resources, if you're not available to have someone else come in,
It's
I would see what the other
not.
board members-
I put it out there. I asked if Jay Chase could sit in for me, and he said that he could, but then he reminded me that, you know, with the virtual meeting thing, it is very easy to reschedule to a different date that the board all can make, and we have time to poll the board and look at calendars and do that, and it's not as onerous as it once was when we had a physical location that we had to book. I have no problem with the board meeting without me. I'm sure you can carry on tremendously without me. I do know in the past when I did miss a meeting, there were some people that had some anxiety about that. So if you guys are comfortable winging it, then I'm sure that you can do so more than adequately. That's fine. So if it's the board's wish to leave the meeting as is, that's just the only pressure now is on Jay to have another night meeting.
I guess I'll put it to the board. What do you folks think? Rudy, David, Karen, Peter, Leroy. But Peter, you have your hand up. Why don't you start?
I guess I have a question. July and August are traditionally the summer months, and July 9th is often a vacation week. We probably don't have a line of sight to what the agenda might be like there, but have we deferred July or bulked up the summer meeting schedule into a single meeting in either July or August in the past, just given the nature of, Maine in the summertime at 7 o'clock, even on a Wednesday, I'd like to be somewhere other than a board meeting in July. So,
That's true.
Okay, so you've just demoted yourself back to an alternate position.
thank you, Brian.
Is your next suggestion say maybe a Friday night at 7? We could do that.
That's
in
right.
July.
To answer your question, Peter, and it's a great question. There, in my 8 years here, I don't recall, only maybe 1 or 2 times when a meeting was completely canceled in the summer or whatever. We, unlike the town council, who sort of takes a little bit of a sabbatical because they meet twice a month anyway, we don't do that. We meet once a month. Occasionally we'll have the luck of the draw where there are no applicants for a month. We've had that happen on a handful of occasions, and so the meeting gets canceled that way. If there are it's kind of been the policy, if there's applications, then we have a meeting.
Yeah.
And if the meeting, for whatever reason in the past, sometimes council needed the chambers for budget talks or other workshops, that sort of thing, we would be asked to move our meeting to a different date and location, which was always challenging, but we've done it on a handful of occasions. And now we wouldn't actually have to, at least for the foreseeable future. I'm sure at some point the virtual meeting option may go away. But anyway, it's really up to the board. It's not my call. It's not anybody else's on staff's call. If you choose to have a meeting, we will try to staff it. And if I'm not available, somebody else will be, hopefully. And so it's your choice.
Clear, I am available on the evening of July the 7th or July the 9th, excuse me. So
it's actually the 4th. Is it the 14th? I think it's the 14th.
14th is second Wednesday.
Yep.
Okay, so that would be the normal meeting is the 14th. So the only option, you can't go back into the July 4th week.
No.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be busy. That's a bad
Right.
week. The only option would be to move it to the 21st.
That poses an issue for me because my wife may be delivering my second child on
Yeah,
that
I
week.
mean, I gotta be honest. I think these meetings have been advertised as the second Wednesday. They're always the second Wednesday. I think just because now I'm doing it via Zoom, we're trying to accommodate. I have a very busy schedule to the extent that you wouldn't want me to try to accommodate me outside of the second Wednesday. I just think if that's how it's advertised and people who may not know that there's going to be a change, I think that maybe seems a little unfair to go and change it. I'm comfortable with Jay. Jay's attended meetings before. And I mean, at this point, Brian, I think we're pretty good and we don't ask you a lot of questions. Your memos are really good as long as you do the memo.
yeah, I agree, Karen. Like I said, the question I asked is more out of, was there past practice about summer
Yeah.
meetings or anything like that? So no, I'm
question.
inclined to keep, especially given our nature as an adjudication committee, I think keeping that schedule, that cadence regular is the right thing to do.
And I think we'll be fine, Brian. And always the worst case, if the board has questions that doesn't have any understanding, it's always the right of the board to table an application for 1 month as well. If we can't, if we need to have more information or additional facts about it that we can't obtain through it.
Sure.
So I'm fine leaving.
Yeah.
I'm fine leaving the schedule as it is. If you guys
Very
are
good.
All we
Okay.
really missed, Brian, was your laser pointer.
It's true. Can't do that on the computer screen anymore. Does anyone have any other comments?
Just a real quick question, James, or maybe
Yes.
for Brian too. Do we have any line of sight to when we will resume in person, or is that still kind of just open-ended and we don't know?
It's still open-ended right now. There hasn't, a lot of the municipalities are kind of taking a wait and see approach to see what other towns are doing as well. There's a lot of factors that are going into it right now. There's no clear or defined passage of, well, when we hit this percentage of cases and this percentage of the population vaccinated, we can go back to live in-person meetings. Unfortunately, we don't have that. So I think it's kind of a sit tight, wait and see. It may turn into a thing where winter months might, depending on what's going on, we face a virtual meeting in the winter months as opposed to summer months. it really depends on what goes on out there.
I understand from the town attorney, I haven't followed up on it, but he mentioned a month or so ago that there actually may be legislation, excuse me, in front of the Senate and the representatives to actually enact some legislation that allows virtual meetings even after the pandemic is over at the option of the town. They realize that they're actually getting great attendance and great participation because of the virtual nature. People don't have to look for babysitters and so on and so forth. They can mute, they can block out their screen, but they can still listen and participate. And it's actually there. I mean, if there was a silver lining to this whole mess, that may be one of them. And certainly, as James said, as the chair said, in the wintertime when travel is sketchy and storms and that kind of thing, it really could be a great benefit to at least have the option. And we could always try the hybrid version where, if you want to come to the town hall, you can join virtually. That may be possible. I don't know where that all stands at this point, but that's just down the road. That's something to think about. But I know many of us like the in-person meetings. Many of us have enjoyed the virtual meetings as well. So having the best of both worlds maybe is the way to go. I don't know how that'll all pan out, but we don't have as James said, I don't have a clear indication. I think as long as there's still a state of emergency from the governor, then the current legislation will dictate. And whether new legislation becomes enacted before that, I don't know.
No, I appreciate it. And I certainly enjoyed eventually meeting all of you in person at some point. Karen and I have talked about that as well. But also I need to arrange childcare. So
Right.
the further, the more of a line of sight that we can get on that, the better in making sure grandma's available. So thank you.
And one note I'll mention that, Peter, we did do a hybrid meeting last year. One time it was a combination in person and virtual, and that could be an option in the future as well. For folks that, folks who can't make it in, that have to stay home, they can still have the ability to join us. So, I don't think I wouldn't expect to have anything just kind of dropped on us. I think we'll have plenty of notice. We'll have plenty of heads up. Enough time for all of us to figure out childcare coverage and all those fun things.
Cool. Great. Thanks very much. Sorry to extend the conversation more than it needed.
No apology necessary. These are questions that we're all thinking about. Any other questions, thoughts?
The only other thing I had was, Brian, I know it did come up the one meeting I think you did miss, that there was a mention of a personal conversation you had with the applicant. And hopefully Jay will just be enlightened for that, because I know he was kind of caught off guard because they were saying he said, she said to you. So hopefully we can counter that going to the next meeting that you're going to miss.
I will try not to have any personal conversations with the applicants.
All right. Any other discussions? Anything else folks want to talk about? Do I have a motion on the floor to adjourn?
Mr.
Bork?
Chair, motion to adjourn.
Do I second?
I second.
Mr. Karen, all those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you all in July. Take care. Be well.
Thank you.
Brian, I'll see you in August, Brian.
Okay, good night.
Good to see everybody